Australians. If you do not know by today through the media, you would know now that there is the Prime Minister of Australia has invited, the Australian government has invited these ASEAN countries leaders to Australia, to Sydney, for a special conference. Ladies and gentlemen, Australia is not a member, repeat, not a member of ASEAN. And yet today, our government have put out our taxpayer money, a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen, for security, for venues and everything, a lot of our taxpayer money to invite this leader here. Many of them are human rights abusers. Let's hope that Australia will make good our money, make its work. And therefore, we are here today to demand the Australian government to speak on our behalf, demand these leaders, some of them are notorious and well-known human rights abuser, regime as well as individual in our region. They are here at the pace of our own pay, our money. So therefore, we hope that our protest today will make sure that our Australian government, as a host country, make sure that human rights is first and foremost in all dialogues today. So that's why we are here. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk later about rules of engagement when everyone is here. A bit of a slowness in some of the groups, but anyway, we hope we will start off soon. So thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need your help. Do we have a mechanic on site? Our power generation. Welcome, Cambodia! Good morning, Laos! Hello, buddies! Guys, as we expressed before, this is a peaceful protest. So please observe the law in Australia. If you happen to find any troublemakers on site, do not take it on your own hand. Please report to us or our man on the floor so we can ask the police for assistance. Cheer out the protest. Please work with us. Do not do singularly because more power when we unify. Once again,
take care of my camera.
Make some fun, go home! Go home! Hang Seng, go home! Go home! Now with Hang Seng in the regime! Now! Human rights for all police! We want human rights for police now! Human rights for police now! Human rights and democracy for Cambodia now! Human rights for Cambodia now! Human rights for Laos now! Human rights for Laos now! Human rights for Vietnam now! Human rights for Vietnam now! Now with the dictatorship and communist regime! Now!
Once again, I am going to put the young Ponta, Room Chamber for you, the Martin Roxanne Center, so my time, smile room, slide side to me. Home Simon! Home Simon! And then we do a major some learning about the campaign, we hear some learning, the one that going through there. Let's say that Home Simon! Home Simon! Home Simon! បាទនេះគឺជាការសាកល្បងកម្លាំងបន្តទៀតនៅពេលដែលយើងកំពុងតែរង ហើយមានដល់ក្រុមខាងស៊ីដនីដល់បងប្អូនខាងស៊ីដនីសូមមេត្តាលើកដៃបាទព្រោះយើងស៊ីដនីយើងឃើញខាងមុខហើយគឺមានបងមកឆៃនេះក៏នៅខាងមុខហើយខាងបងប្អូនយើងដែលមកពី Brisbane សូមលើកដៃដល់ខាងបងប្អូន Brisbane បាទខ្ញុំក៏សក្ការៈនៅខាងមុខនេះស្រាប់ហើយបន្តិចទៀតគឺមានខាងអត្តលេខនឹងមកចូលរួមដែរខាងបងប្អូនយើងនៅអត្តលេខចូលមកដល់នោះបាទអត្តលេខព្រមnot yet they're running a little bit late but we program has to start a bit we'll start at 11 o'clock so once again welcome to stay calm and cool and the police just said to me if anything at all just let the police know we don't get involved in any operation or anything so ដូច្នេះបើសិនជាបងប្អូនគាត់សម្គាល់ឃើញមានបញ្ហាអ្វីមួយខ្លះសូមរក្សាភាពស្ងៀមស្ងាត់ហើយរាយការណ៍ទៅខាងប៉ូលីសពីព្រោះខាងប៉ូលីសថ្ងៃនេះគឺមកការពារមកផ្ដល់នៅការការពារពេញលេញដល់យើងដែលជាអ្នកមកធ្វើបាតកម្មដោយអហិង្សាសូមស្វាគមន៍ផងដែរដល់លោកពូជួនចំបត់ខាងអាស៊ីសេរីបាទស្វាគមន៍ឥឡូវនេះខ្ញុំនឹងជួលម៉ាក្រូហ្វូនទៅដល់បងប្អូនខាងឡាវបាទអូសប្បាយดีឡាវអភយុพี่น้องเวียดนามเป็นหมู่ของคนลาวพี่น้องเขมรเป็นหมู่คนลาวขอให้ลาวอพยพจงเจริญพักคอยนิดลาวจิพายของลุงหมายมอดเขาเป็นคนชั่วเขาเป็นคนบ่ดีเขาก็หักคนลาวลาวอพยพหักคนลาวในลายวันนี้we are the Lao division, not Lao people. The Lao Communist Party never lost the Lao people. It is us that not the Lao people. Okay. Right now we stand together with our brother Vietnamese, Cambodian, Rohingya, and all others in the free world. Today we ask the ASEAN government to cut off the aid to Laos because the Lao government never recognized human rights in Laos. And then we are here today to support our friends here, our brothers here, to fight against communism in Laos, in Cambodia, in Vietnam. And thank you very much for everybody. And if you see someone เข้ามาเห็นคนแบบนามานะบอกว่าพวกนั้นเป็นศัตรูสถานทูตส่งมาพระความรู้ส่งมาพระความนี้เราส่งมาเราต้องปราบมัน Thank you.
So there you are, guys. We have multiple nationalities. We are in German, so please. No, look at them, and Cambodia.
Now we so far all of these are just practices, all right? And I must say your voice are beautiful and very strong. Let's make it even stronger when we properly start this protest, all right?
Hello everyone. Hello everyone.
Yes.
Hello everyone. Can you join me to say this? When I say freedom, I want you guys, the Cambodian people, to say, for Cambodian, okay? And then the next one, when I say freedom, you are Vietnamese people, for Vietnam. The next one, freedom, for who guys? For the Laos people. The next one is for the Rohingya people. So join with me and say, freedom! 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 Freedom for the Laos people!
of that regime is still ugly regime, and for that we detest, for that we condemn, for that we ask them to out of Australia now. Yes, and 3 times, okay? So you're doing very well, okay? So I have to preserve my voice because we go to the 2 hours. So I have to preserve, so please understand. And we got 3 MCs today. We'll try to keep up with you guys, alright? And you guys will help us to run the program smoothly. We got a lot of speakers.
Okay, I say in Burmese, you guys say all for doye, okay? Doye, okay? Okay. Aung San Suu Kyi, soya, lechi soya, protaye. Aung San Suu Kyi, lechi soya, protaye. Rohingya pidunya tapyamu chachiya saye. Rohingya pidunya tapyamu chachiya saye. Rohingya pidunya freedom yashiye. Rohingya pidunya freedom yashiye. Aung San Suu Kyi chachi Australia langa ba mountain ye. Aung San Suu Kyi Australia langa ba mountain ye. Thank you. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a representative from Cambodia.
ฮัลโหลป้าปองจะเชื่อสำหรับคนอันนี้ป่ะเรียนช่วยที่มากันเนี่ยเราไปคุยกันเราแพนเรียกป่ะกันมากันนี่ป่ะ
Thank you, Cambodia. Kính thưa quý vị, anh Phi có ở đây không ạ? Anh thợ máy Phi. Nếu có xin mời anh đi qua phía sau sân khấu. Cái máy phát điện đang chờ anh. Mechanics Phi, if you're here, please come to see us. We need you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the ASEAN Forum is all about or counter-terrorism and trade. If we're talking about anti-communism or anti-terrorism, we want those unlawful leaders to remove themselves from power, and that will make the world a better place to live. We want Hun Sen to go home and out. Hun Sen out now. Hun Sen out now. We want democracy and freedom for India. So, Suu Kyi is not well enough to represent them. Do we want her in Australia? We do not want Suu Kyi in Australia, do we? Suu Kyi out! Suu Kyi out! Freedom for all Asian countries. Freedom for Vietnam. Democracy for Vietnam. Freedom for Laos. Freedom for Cambodia now! Freedom for India now! Ladies and gentlemen, the second item of the forum is all about trade. Australia do not want trade over human rights. No trade.
កើមកខាងមុខដើម្បីយើងបានឃើញទាំងអស់គ្នាហើយកន្លែងយើងគឺនៅខាងមុខទៀតសូមឲ្យតាអញ្ជើញចូលបន្តិចបាទឥឡូវនេះយើងមកពីនេះគឺដើម្បីធ្វើការបាតុកម្មដោយអហិង្សាបើសិនជាបងប្អូនឃើញសកម្មភាពណាមួយដែលមិនប្រក្រតីសូមកុំចូលរួមនៅក្នុងការតវ៉ាប្រឆាំងឲ្យសោះពីព្រោះថាយើងត្រូវរក្សាភាពស្ងប់ស្ងាត់ដោយដែលបងប្អូនបានឃើញហើយគឺមានភ្នាក់ងារប៉ូលីសទាំងបរិយាកាសដោយដែលបានសន្យាគឺគ្រប់គ្រងអ្នកដែលបានដោយអហិង្សាជាមកថាដូច្នេះសូមបងប្អូនដែលតាមជើងចូលមកហើយពីព្រោះថានឹងមានបងប្អូនរបស់យើងចូលមកជាបន្តខាងក្រោយទៀតសូមអរគុណឥឡូវនេះគឺ just once again for the Cambodian that come from Adelaide please raise your hand Adelaide, maybe not here yet. From Adelaide, here, no, from Queensland, from Melbourne. Aung San, go home. 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 Just let me one more time before we take the microphone from me. The official ceremony hasn't started. Aung San, go home. 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 Suu Kyi next. Suu Kyi, go home. Suu Kyi. Suu Kyi. We in Vietnamese, we got a prime minister with a very unfortunate name because his name in English means F. Yes, Lee Sun F. So therefore we say Sun Fuck go home. Everyone will have their turn to go home. So we will send a strong message. So we just practice, and I must say, you are a beautiful crowd, and I can see many of you here already. We forgot one, ladies and gentlemen. Someone go home. Someone go home. Someone go home. Someone go home. Someone fuck go home. Someone fuck go home. Suu Kyi go home. Suu Kyi go home. Aung San go home. Aung San go home. Aung San go home. Someone go home. Someone go home. Someone fuck go home. Someone fuck go home. Aung San go home. Aung San go home. Aung San go home. Suu Kyi go home. 1, 2, 1, 2. That was very well done, ladies and gentlemen. Very well done. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, the Vietnamese, the Cambodian, ASEAN, and the Indian here today. And because of that, please bear with each other. We will pay respect to the three national anthems: the Vietnamese, the Cambodian, the Laos, and of course the Australian national anthems in a sequential order. So please, when it comes to that, let's pay respect to each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have some your attention? Very important before we start, all right? Now, sorry, we must use English because simply impossible for me to speak 3 other languages or 4. So simply we will use officially today, all the official programs will be English. So we will try to use simple English so everyone can understand. And if any of you good with English and your fellow Cambodian or Rohingya or Laos and on Vietnamese can understand, could you please translate it for them, all right? Help them out. 1, 2. Yes, and of course we will welcome all the distinguished guests soon. So we will welcome them by name. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, we will start exactly.
The spirit of raising our voice, asking the Australian governments to have a stronger stance, asking for a better human rights in Southeast Asia. Can we do that? Yes. Human rights! Human rights!
is out, out, out. So we got it here. Thong Lun out of Australia now. Out, I think. Yep. Yeah. Thong Lun out. Out. Thong Lun out. Out. Soon fuck out. Soon fuck out. Suu Kyi out. Suu Kyi out. Hun Sen out. Hun Sen out. There you go. Okay, this is very good. Now, from time to time, you will be able to shout in your language when your leaders come up here, all right? And when they say their piece, they are free to say in their language, and you will shout. And we'll, even though we don't understand, we shout with you too, okay? So when the Vietnamese come up here, they shout something, join them. When the Laos here, the Rohingya here, join with them, all right? They will say something, we join, okay? So that is the procedure.
That's very good, ladies and gentlemen. If you shout singularly in your language, we probably think that you want to welcome this guy over here. Okay, so...
Yes, community! Welcome them, all right? Yes, and of course, we must not forget among us are many Australian friends. So welcome our fellow Australians! Yes. Republic of Vietnam, I must emphasize, all right? Not the communist one. So, ladies and gentlemen, please be very quiet and respectful when we salute our beloved Australian flags, the freedom flags of all of us, and our own national anthems and flags. So please, facing the
Can I ask the Cambodian community to please get your music ready? The last...
We are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our hope is girt by sea. Our lands of mountain nature's gift, all beauty rich and rare. In history's tale. The national anthems of Cambodia. The national anthems of Laos. gentlemen, we are now observe 1 minute of silence. So please keep silence for this minute. A minute of silence to remember millions upon millions of victims who were tortured, killed, murdered, massacred by communist and dictatorship regime worldwide, especially those who die under tyrannic regimes in Asia today, in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Laos, and in Myanmar. We pay a minute to also pray for those who are currently suffering immensely under these regimes. We remember them and we will especially fight for them. So 1 minute of silence to remember those who have died begins. A minute of silence has ended. Thank you very much. Freedom for Cambodia now! Now! Freedom for Laos now! Freedom for Vietnam now! Freedom for Rohingyas now! Now! We will, thank you ladies and gentlemen. Now go straight to the program. We will have plenty of shouting later on. But ladies and gentlemen, we would like to acknowledge among our distinguished guests here today. First of all, we would like to, all of you, to welcome the Honorable Chris Hayes, the Labour MP, federal MP. Chris Hayes is a great friend of our community and he's the big voice in our parliament. Chris Hayes, where are you? Could you put your hand together for Chris Hayes? Now, so Chris Hayes is here. Now we also welcome on the Mr. Hong Lim, the president of the Cambodian community, also the member of parliament in the Victorian Parliament, Mr. Hong Lim, ladies and gentlemen. We also welcome here 2 Cambodian councillors. One of them is currently the mayor of the city of Greater Dandenong, Councillor Yu Hon Chia. And of course, Councillor Hang Tak from the Cambodian community. And we also welcome Councillor Loy Jun from the city of Greater Dandenong from Melbourne as well, from the Vietnamese community. Ladies and gentlemen, we also welcome today Mr. Dev Sisara, President of the Laos community, and Dr. Buthons Chantalavong and Mr. Sufai Van Maukham Samphel. There you are, welcome the Laos community. We also welcome Mr. Bon Nguyen, the President of the Bon Hui, New South Wales Vietnamese community. Mr. Viv Nguyen from Victoria, President of the Vietnamese community, Victoria. With Dr. Kuan Bui, President of the Vietnamese community from Queensland. Welcome him, yes. We also welcome Ms. Trần Hương Thủy, President of the Vietnamese community from Wollongong. Where are you? Gee, the stage is pretty full here. And Mr. Kong Lee, from ACT, ladies and gentlemen, Vietnamese community. And of course, Mr. Bon Nguyen, the organizer for today, Mr. President of the Vietnamese community in Australia. Big round of applause for Mr. Bon Nguyen, who bring all of us here together today. And of course, my name is Phong Nguyen. I'm also the Vice President of the Vietnamese community. And Mr. Tuan, who's also my MC today, he's also the Vice President. So together, we welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen. Put a big round of applause for all of us, all those who come from afar and those who come near, and the locals. And maybe we should give a round of applause for our police and security people welcome them too. Put a runner for our democratic police, not the tyrannic one in our home countries. Okay. Okay.
Let's go, buddy. Well, that answered your question.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see all our communities here coming together in solidarity today to raise our voice, to push for the Australian government to be stronger in terms of human rights in Southeast Asia, and also to push our voice against the Chinese, or communist Chinese, who are silently, slowly invading the Southeast Sea. So when I say China, communist China, you would say down, down, down. Communist China! Down, down, down. Communist China! Down, down, down. Communist Vietnamese! Down, down, down. Communist Vietnam! Down, down, down. Communist Vietnam! Down, down, down. Hun Sen! Out, out, out. Ladies and gentlemen, I now would like to invite Mr. Bon Nguyen, representing the Vietnamese community in Australia, to come forward to say a few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please first acknowledge the traditional owner of the land on the land of which we're gathering? Can I acknowledge both the elders past and present, ladies and gentlemen? I know that among us, there are community leaders, our brothers and sisters from the Laos communities. Can I, before I do that, acknowledge the Honorable Chris Hayes and also the Honorable Hong Lim as well. Ladies and gentlemen, our brothers and sisters and leaders from the Cambodian communities, our brothers and sisters and leaders from the Laos communities, our brothers and sisters from the Burmese Rohingyas community, and of course the Vietnamese community from Victoria, from South Australia, from Queensland, and from Wollongong, and from ACT. Of course the main force would be from New South Wales here, ladies and gentlemen. So please help me with my speech. Can I say freedom? I want you to say for the Cambodian people. Freedom now, freedom for the Cambodian people. You say now, freedom for the Cambodian people. Freedom for the Cambodian people. Freedom for the Vietnamese. Stop killing in Burma to the Rohingya people now. Freedom for the Laos now. Ladies and gentlemen, we came together today under one banner, Australia. We are Australia. We have been settled in Australia for a long time. We are Australia. So why does it interest us? Because we want to protect the value of Australia. We want to protect the interests of Australia. How do we protect that, ladies and gentlemen? Number one, we see that in terms of economical benefit to Australia, that is great. However, ladies and gentlemen, to build up military around the coastal areas of Vietnam, militarization from the Chinese, it is undermine the economic benefits of Australia. It is a threat to Australia national security as well as the neighboring countries, ladies and gentlemen. So the militarization from the Chinese government, it is a threat. We want to bring that danger to our Australian government and our fellow Australia, ladies and gentlemen. That's not only the interests that we are protecting, we also protecting the value that Australia we all share. And what are those values? The humanity values that we all share. Why do we live here? Why do we live here in Australia? Because we actually embrace the humanity values. Australian people accept us as humanity values in Australia here. Today we see that trade, yes, I see that Australia have great benefits in terms of economical with actually doing business with other country. Try to strengthening our economical position with other country. I think it's great. However, we cannot do that ignoring the humanity factors, that is the human rights abuse that's happening in Cambodia. That's happening. It is unacceptable. It is not acceptable for Hun Sen to murder his people in his own country. It is unacceptable for him to send direct threat to members of the Cambodian community in Australia. It is not acceptable for Nguyen Xuan Phuc regime, the Vietnamese communist regime, to actually to violate and abuse the religious belief in Vietnam, and also abuse and even murders our people in Vietnam as well, ladies and gentlemen. So they are actually terrorizing. They are terrorizing people. Indeed, the
ASEAN summit, they are actually discussing about issue of economic, but indeed they are actually using dead body, killing people over economic benefits, ladies and gentlemen, and they are actually terrorizing their own people in all of the countries that I mentioned. They have been doing that. So we, Australia, cannot stand idle and accept that. Yes, if we accept that, if we as Australians who have embraced the values of humanity for a long time, and we accept that, what are we doing? We are trading over dead bodies, ladies and gentlemen. We don't accept that. Do we accept that, ladies and gentlemen? If you don't accept that, and join with me and call for freedom for Vietnam now. Now. Freedom for Laos now. Now. Freedom for Cambodia now. And of course, I say that in terms of belief, religious belief, I say that in Australia, when we are living in harmony, ladies and gentlemen, among different religions, there is no problem whatsoever. So why is it a problem in Burma, particularly to the Rohingya people, ladies and gentlemen? So stop killing the Rohingya people and push them, mistreating them straight away. Stop now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I call the names out, I want you to respond with the word go home. Are we ready? Aung San! Go home! Aung San! Go home! Aung San! Go home! Aung San Suu Kyi! Go home! Aung San Suu Kyi! Go home! Aung San Suu Kyi! Go home! Thang Long! Go home! Thang Long! Go home! Thang Long! Go home! Sun Phuc! Go home! Sun Phuc! Go home! Sun Phuc! Go home! Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our the next speaker is a passionate. He's one of the most passionate speaker inside our parliament in federal. Ladies and gentlemen, federal parliament. He has been a strong voice. Sometimes he feels himself alone, but that didn't deter him to continue to raise the human rights among his colleagues, among the official, foreign affairs official, and he pressured the government in our parliament. Chris A.
Thank you very much, Bon. Ladies and gentlemen, today you have the opportunity to show our Asian leaders what a peaceful protest is all about. Can I start by acknowledging the traditional custodian of the land where we meet, the Gadigal people, the Eora Nation. In doing so, can I remind everybody here, unless you have an Aboriginal heritage, we are all immigrants or descendant from immigrants in this country. No matter when you came or how you came, we are here as Australians. Today, over the next couple of days, the leaders of the Southeast Asian nations are going to meet, as you know. Leaders from Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, and the Philippines president won't be here, as I understand. A bit afraid of peaceful protests. But I think this is our opportunity to actually talk to those leaders. This is our opportunity to demand of those Asian country leaders that they not only sign international human rights conventions, they ratify them, but we call on them to honour the conditions of their human rights conditions. This is something that it doesn't matter which country it is, we are seeing this egregiously broken time and time again. If I could talk a little about Vietnam to start with. Now, Vietnam is a country who we do a lot of trade with. It's a country that we have an interest in. Matter of fact, the vast majority of the electorate I happen to represent in Sydney is made up of Vietnamese people. So I know a little bit about Vietnam. I know how the government has a monopoly on political power. I know how there's been a crackdown on human rights in Vietnam of late. Suppressing basic things, such as coming together as we are doing today, being able to speak, being able to express political will. These things are being cracked down. And for those who use the internet, you'll know about bloggers. And I'll just use a couple of examples there. Nguyen Quinn, otherwise known to many here as Mother Mushroom, and Tran Thi Tha. Now, their crime, they were charged and convicted under very vague national security laws. is writing about an environmental disaster that threatened hundreds of thousands of livelihoods in Vietnam. They also wrote about human rights. But for their crime, they were charged, they were convicted, they spent 10 years in jail for expressing the views of others, for championing the views of others. And I'd just like to talk about a human rights lawyer, Nguyen Van Dai. He got arrested in Vietnam on the way back from meeting with the representatives of the European Union talking about human rights. That was 2 years ago he was arrested. He still has not received a trial. He's in jail, he stays in jail until eventually he'll be tried and no doubt under a system in Vietnam convicted. I spoke a little bit about the Formosa fish poisoning issue. Formosa was a steel plant in the Ha Tinh province that discharged poisons into the river and into the environment. It stole the livelihood of hundreds of thousands of people. And the government's response to that was a very hard crackdown on people that engaged like we are doing today in peaceful protest. People that demanded just and fair compensation. As a matter of fact, they went on to harass religious leaders who stood by their people claiming just and fair compensation. These are issues that should concern all of us because we regard Vietnam as a friendly nation. We trade with Vietnam. I've got to say that I know there's many people here from Laos, and I've seen very, very similar patterns emerge in Laos. Again, there's a government with a monopoly on political power, a government that moves to suppress freedom of speech. And most disturbingly, we are now hearing more and more reports of activists, human rights activists, disappearing. Now that should be a concern to all of us. And I know there's many here from Cambodia. I can see the Cambodian flags.
Big contingents, yes.
Now, for everyone's benefit, you may not be aware of this, but there's an up-and-coming national election in Cambodia, as Cambodia is a democratic state. Can I just speak about how this democratic state is handling the upcoming election? It has jailed the opposition leader, Kem Sokha. It has abolished the main opposition party. It has prevented members of that opposition party from holding political office for a period of 5 years. It has a court system that does the will of the government. And where there is independent voices such as the media and non-government organisations, the Aung San government has moved to shut those organisations down. Where there's critical voices of government and government policy, the government has moved to close those voices and stop people speaking out. This is what we understand to be a democracy. It's certainly not an Australian democracy. We could not stand here, what we're doing here today, in Phnom Penh. We would have the police intervening, breaking it up, and ensuring that the leaders of this peaceful rally would be jailed. And I almost forgot to say what's probably even worse. Only recently, in the advent of the ASEAN summit, Aung San, the Prime Minister of Cambodia, he threatened Australian citizens. He threatened Australian citizens, if you protest against me, I will have you followed home and bashed. We don't expect... We don't expect any legitimate foreign leader to come to Australian soil and threaten Australians. This is an abomination. This is not what we stand for in our democracy. We're entitled to speak out, we're entitled to express our views, we're entitled to protest, and we won't be silenced by foreign dictators. about Myanmar. Now I know there's a lot of the Burmese people here today as well. Over the last 2 years, we have heard horrific reports about the treatment of the Rohingya Muslims in Burma. We've heard about the killings, the rapes, the forced displacements, the burning of their villages, all part of a military operation. For those of us that spent a lot of time supporting Aung San Suu Kyi, we expected more from her. I know it's still a military operation, but as a leader of a country, we expected more. We expect fairness and decency for people. What we have now is a massive humanitarian crisis. Over 600,000 people are displaced from their homes, are refugees, stateless, and living in Bangladesh. Cannot get home because their villages have been burnt. We expect more from the leaders of Myanmar. This is just another example of extreme power leads to extreme control over the people. This is not good. It's not good for our futures within the region.
Suu Kyi go home! Suu Kyi go home! Suu Kyi go home! Suu Kyi go home! Suu Kyi go home!
Now, I know the President of the Philippines is not here today. He decided not to be a no-show. But I did want to say a little bit about the Philippines because, again, it is a democracy. Again, it's a country that we have supported for many years and will continue to do so. And there's many Australian Filipinos in our community. Now, President Duterte has declared a war on drugs, and I support a war on drugs by all legitimate means. Ridding ourselves of the scourge of drugs in our community is a good thing. Fighting organised crime, the Mr. Bigs, who make profit out of the drug trade, is a greater thing to do as well. But in President Duterte's war on drugs, the way he's approached it, he's given the police and vigilante groups a licence to kill. They can shoot and kill people with immunity. People who are only suspected of being involved in drugs. There's no arrest, there's no trial, there's no conviction, there's no sentence by the court. People can be shot and killed. And since 2016, you know, there's been over 12,000 people shot and killed in this eradicating or this war on drugs. As I say, this is undermine our courts, our court system. It is an abuse of power. It has undermined the rule of law and the criminal justice system. And I support the role of the Catholic Church in the Philippines when they declare, "Thou shalt not kill." Now, let's take this opportunity, friends, to remind all Asian leaders of what we expect of them. We expect them to honour their human rights commitment. We don't see it as proper that a sign and forget mentality be taken when people sign on to international human rights conventions. When they sign these things and ratify them in their countries, we should be entitled to say that we want you to honour your international commitments. I think we have a moral, if not legal, responsibility to call out on our Asian leaders to honour their responsibilities in that regard. Look, as we stand here today, we can reflect on how lucky we are as Australians. We have a court system that administers justice without fear or favour. We're afforded the opportunity to come and peacefully protest. We can speak freely without fear of arrest or punishment. Our police, and I know there's many of them here today, our police are here to protect us. They operate, they enforce the law, they don't operate for any one political party, and our police are accountable for their actions. And as we stand here, ladies and gentlemen, we are all equal before the law. And that's what we expect from our major trading partners, people that we share a vision of prosperity in our region. We share the view that people should all be equal before the law. But regrettably, in many countries, and including many of our Asian countries, that's just not the case. Look, I think as the ASEAN Summit meets, it would be a missed opportunity for us not to ensure that Australia gets its point of view across on human rights. I agree with Elaine Pearson when she says that not to actually raise the issue of human rights will be a propaganda success for some of the most human rights abusers in our region. And it could also embolden those who get worried about people speaking out, protests. It can embolden them to actually suppress human rights. So I think we have a responsibility, particularly as Australia fought so hard to have a seat on the International Human Rights Council. So coming together today, you have shown that we will not be intimidated by threats. We will not be silent where we see human rights being trampled. We will not be silent when others are having their ability for free speech taken away. And friends, we cannot ignore situations where the rule of law is being actively undermined by countries that we regard as friends. Can I congratulate Bon Nguyen, Hong Lim, the Cambodian community, the VCA that are here, Deaf and Graf from the Lao community, and the Burmese community. You've come here as Australians. You've come here to ensure that your views are heard around the globe. And in coming here today, you have shown yourselves as true Australians, ones that believe in freedom, human rights, and democracy for all. Thank you very much.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, with the Holocaust in Burma, with the massacre in Cambodia,
And maybe
friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are making history today. Yes. Do you know what this gathering means? We send a very powerful message to all our people back home that why they've been suppressed, why they cannot demonstrate like us, why they cannot shout and scream, no, their anger, their suffering like us today. We are doing here today on their behalf. Yes! This is being televised worldwide. This is being live broadcast on Facebook. All our people, all our community overseas and back home in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Laos, in the Rohingya area, they all see what we are doing, that we take up their cause, that we never forget their suffering, but we never forget where we come from, and that here today we walk tall and walk proud as a free Australian. Yes! I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our organizer, starting with Bong Nguyen, our Vietnamese brother and sister, who take on the burden of organizing this more than anybody else. I'd like to welcome all the Vietnamese, the Cambodian community, and other communities that come all the way from Melbourne, from Adelaide, from Queensland, and you took 13, 14, 16-hour trip overnight just to be here, showing your passion, showing your anger, telling the Prime Minister that he has failed in his duty of care, not speaking up publicly for Hun Sen to threaten, questioning our value system here in Australia, our freedom. We order that if you issue a threat here, the police officer out there know that it is a criminal offense. If you Hun Sen, go home! 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 And if you start following people, it is stalking, it is also a criminal offense. That's right! Hun Sen, go home! Hun Sen,
I hope they can understand English. I hope that he can report back to Aung San that we are very angry as Australian, Vietnamese, Cambodian, and Laotian, and Rohingya. We will not let them get away with murder that they have been doing for all this time. We will fight every inch of the way, and if they can come to not dare to come to our home, that is home invasion, that is domestic violence. It is another criminal offense in this country.
Yes.
Aung San and his mate around the area get away with that. They can do anything, anytime in the country. That's why our people, they were so cowed, so afraid of them. But here we have freedom, we have the law to protect us, we have the right to express our belief, our value system as Australian, and for somebody who's supposed to come here to discuss terrorism, but he himself is an international terrorist coming to terrorize people here in this country. Down with Aung San! Down, down, down! Go home, Aung San! Go home, go home! Aung San, go home! Aung San, go home! Aung San, go home!
Shut down.
That many of the hand is shaking yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Our hands are full of blood. Last week, Thursday, Aung San killed 8 people, took their land, burned their home because his daughter won those land. This is the kind of tyranny, kind of dictatorship, kind of brutality that the Cambodians have been living under. This is just the most recently. I'd like to give you a special example that we have here a heroine, the wife of a very highly regarded, highly respected researcher and social political critic, Dr. Cam Lay. He was killed in broad daylight, and that stirred up the passion that you've never seen anywhere in the world. Out of the population of 15 in Cambodia, more than 2 million follow his cortege, 36 kilometers long, over an 80-kilometer stretch that to take his body back to his hometown. People in Cambodia are so angry. People in Cambodia are so frustrated. They want change. They want a better change. And this invitation to him is just not acceptable. I hope the Prime Minister washes his hand many times, because it's the hand of blood, the hand of exploitation, the hand of criminality, the hand of brutality, the hand of suppression, the hand of nothing, never respect democracy. In fact, he's not destroying democracy. And as our friend Vietnamese brother just mentioned earlier, right? This kind of thing that we cannot accept in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Laos. I like particularly to mention here to our Rohingya friend, brother and sister here. It breaks my heart because I am a Buddhist. I think it's shameful for Buddhists to do what to you guys in Burma. And I have so much closer, very close friendship with the main Burmese community. I've worked with them very well for the past 22 years, especially during our struggle for Aung San Suu Kyi to become what she is now. But now she has failed us, and we're questioning now why she's there. So you have our support, you have our respect. We will never forget your suffering, because Buddhists never do that to any people. This is a shameful thing to happen in Burma, and we will support you all the way. Rohingya forever! Forever! Freedom for the Rohingya now! Now! Freedom for the Rohingya now! Now! Justice for the Rohingya now! Thank you. I like also to mention this. This is the first time that our many communities come together. I
I believe and I trust that this is just the beginning of a long march, of a journey that we will do together to representing the suffering, telling the whole world of the thing that is unspeakable that happened in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Laos, in Burma, and in many other parts. But many of you probably know, Song had just mentioned about many things, right, about the fact, right? But another fact that is profoundly that it's been hidden over because the many news that we have received. In Vietnam alone, for the past 3 years until the end of this year, 400 people have been executed.
Yes.
Amnesty International report that, and nobody seems to. Can you imagine? Many of those would be political strugglers, political activists, religious activists that want a better Vietnam. And in all this, there's many Australian-born friends who went to war in Vietnam, who went to war in Cambodia, and they have said time and again, they said that Hong Kong, your country does not need to be like this. Your country deserves better. Your country will be better. We all will fight for a better Vietnam, Cambodia, Rohingya, and now, forever, our struggle will be. Thanks so much for being here between us, showing so much for your solidarity, thanks so much for your sacrifice, because we know that you come, you spend your time, you spend your money, you pay, you contribute, not like those who brought in the plane with Hun Sen, or those who have been bribed by Hun Sen. You probably do not know that each Cambodian that dined with him last night have been paid $600 per head, each the equivalent of his $500 US. And then shame, 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 shame.
Ladies and gentlemen, put a big shout of applause to Hong Lim and representing our brother Mr. in Cambodia. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one smaller community in Australia, but they are not small voices though. And our neighbor country, that is the Laos people. For many of us, the world seems to have forgotten Laos. They've forgotten Laos, that Laos have been together with us fighting communism for many decades. And Laos today is still under communism. And today, Laos have been controlled by the communist Vietnam. The communist Vietnam and China too try to take over Laos and take over their land and oppress them and take over their sovereignty. Ladies and gentlemen, and the human rights in Laos is a shameful fact that we now would like to invite Dr. Buthon Chantalavong, President of the Alliance for Democracy in Laos, and Mr. Sufavan Malkamphel, please come up here and representing the Laos community. So would you please welcome the Laos communities?
Hi everyone here. I am lucky to be here with you all together. Today, we, the Alliance for Democracy in Laos and Alliance Lao organizations and Lao people from Australia and other countries who love their country and democracy together with international people who advocate for justice came together with Cambodia, Vietnamese, Burmese people in Sydney to protest against Supreme Leader of the Lao People Revolutionary Party and top leader of Vietnam Communists to attend the ASEAN special meeting with Australian government in this area in Sydney, 17 March 2018. Since 1975, Laos had been ruled by an authoritarian party regime under Lao Communist Party. The going dramatic human rights violations threaten the people, whole Laos. The restriction of on-line, especially the restriction of the social media like Facebook with the decree number 327, limited the freedom of media, the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, right to demonstration for justice, freedom of association, land right, religion freedom, and other rights. 1977 for a term of 25 years and privilege every 10 years give control for Vietnam communists in Laos and everywhere. But now I would speak in Laos for our people in our whole land. Thank you. Stop Vietnam communist control of Laos now! Democracy change for Laos now! Human rights for Laos now! Freedom for Laos now!
Thank you. Vietnam communists go home.
สารประท้วงของการพันธมิตรเพื่อประชาธิปไตยในลาวร่วมกับการจัดตั้งการเมืองของลาวทุกทั่วหน้าสมาคมของลาวและชุมชนลาวจากประเทศออสเตรเลียที่ต่อหน้ากองประชุมผู้นำสูงสุดกลุ่มอาเซียนกับรัฐบาลออสเตรเลียครั้งวันที่ 17 มีนา 2018 เมื่อนี้พวกเราองค์การพันธมิตรเพื่อประชาธิปไตยในลาวร่วมกับบรรดาการจัดตั้งการเมืองของลาวหลายการจัดตั้งสมาคมต่างๆของลาวหลายภาคส่วนและพ่อแม่พี่น้องลาวจากประเทศออสเตรเลียและพ่อแม่พี่น้องลาวจากทั่วโลกและทางในประเทศผู้ที่ฮักชาติและฮักประชาธิปไตยได้ร่วมกันมาเดินขบวนประท้วงอยู่ในแห่งนี้ร่วมกับประชาชนลาวเขมรกัมพูชาพม่าและชาติอื่นกับชาวสากลเพื่อประณามผู้นำสูงสุดสปป.ลาวและเวียดนามคอมมิวนิสต์ที่มาร่วมกองประชุมผู้นำสูงสุดกลุ่มอาเซียนกับรัฐบาลประเทศออสเตรเลียเนื่องจากมาเท่าถึงปัจจุบันนี้ในสปป.ลาวยังมีการปกครองแบบคอมมิวนิสต์เผด็จการพรรคเดียวที่ก้มเหงประชาชนในลาวซึ่งได้มีการยึดอำนาจมาตั้งแต่ปี 1975 เป็นต้นมาโดยมีการกบขี่ข่มเหงประชาชนลาวทุกด้านคือบังคับและยึดที่ดินไปให้นายทุนต่างชาติหลายกว่า 30 ปีในทั่วประเทศเส้นได้สร้างความทุกข์จนให้กับประชาชนอย่างให้แห่งกว่าเก่าแต่กรมการข้ามผู้นำกำอำนาจทุกขั้นของสปป.ลาวพัดพากันซ่อโกงอย่างมหาศาลประชาชนลาวในทั่วประเทศได้ถูกจำกัดสิทธิในทุกด้านเป็นต้นสิทธิทางด้านข่าวสารทางด้านสังคมออนไลน์ที่วงไว้อยู่ในดำรัส 327 และการจำกัดสิทธิข่าวสารอื่นๆสิทธิในการบ่าวเว้าการออกความคิดเห็นการชุมนุมชนการประท้วงร้องขอความเป็นธรรมสิทธิทางการเมืองสิทธิในการเป็นเจ้าของแผ่นดินเป็นเจ้าของประเทศชาติสิทธิในการนับถือศาสนาและสิทธิอื่นๆในเดือนพฤษภาคม 2016 ทางการสปป.ลาวได้จับกุมลูกหลานลาวที่ไปทำงานอยู่ไทย 3 คนคือเท้าสมพรพิมพ์สอนนางหลอดคำธรรมวงศ์เท้าสุการเจทัศน์ที่บ่มีความผิดอย่างแต่พวกเขาเจ้าเพียงแต่ออกคำเห็นอยู่ในสังคมออนไลน์ Facebook เพื่อที่ว่าเราเสรีภาพและให้มีการเปลี่ยนแปลงในลาวไปสู่ประชาธิปไตยทางเจ้าได้ถูกจำคุก82 หา20 ปีในวันที่ 25 กรกฎาคม 2017 เจ้าหน้าที่ทางการสปป.ลาวที่แขวงเซกองได้จับประชาชนลาวที่บ้านยึกเมืองท่าแตงแขวงเซกองทั้งหมด 14 คนในนั้น 2 คนยังเป็นเด็กน้อยอายุต่ำกว่า 18 ปีและ 1 คนได้เสียชีวิตอยู่ในคุกคือเท้าสมสวรรค์ย้อนถูกทรมานให้เสียชีวิตในวันที่ 20 มกราคม 2018 ผ่านมาโดยที่เจ้าหน้าที่ทางการสปป.ลาวบ่ได้แจ้งให้ญาติเขาเจ้ารู้ก่อนจะนำไปทำพิธีชาปนกิจศพการหายทรัพย์สินของท่านสมบัติสมพรนับแต่ท้ายปี 2012 เป็นต้นมานักพัฒนาผู้ดีเด่นของเราทางการสปป.ลาวยังปฏิเสธบ่รับรู้ว่าบ่ฮู้บ่เห็นทั้งที่สากลได้รับการทักท้วงมาตลอดนอกจากนั้นการเซ็นสัญญาลาวพิเศษเวียดนามวันที่ 18 กรกฎาคม 1977 ซึ่งมีอายุถึง 25 ปีและต่อทุกๆ 10 ปีใดเป็นสัญญาที่ให้เวียดนามครอบครองลาวทุกทางจนถึงปัจจุบันมาถึงปัจจุบันนี้เวียดนามได้พยายามกลืนกินลาวหลายรูปแบบเป็นต้นในทุกขั้นอำนาจการปกครองที่สำคัญในสปป.ลาวมีที่ปรึกษาเวียดนามควบคุมสั่งการทุกด้านอย่างเคร่งครัดในลาวมีกองทหารทั้งในและนอกเครื่องแบบที่สังกัดอยู่ในท้องถิ่นต่างๆของเราเพื่อบีบบังคับประชาชนเราเพื่อให้มีปากมีเสียงในการปกครองด้วยเราเองเวียดนามได้ทำการคนเอาทรัพย์ในดินสินในน้ำของเราไปอย่างบังอาจพร้อมกันนั้นเวียดนามยังได้ทำลายธรรมชาติและภาษาของเราทำลายวัฒนธรรมของเราสิ่งที่ให้เห็นก็ ลาวตามแสดงในเขตลายแขวงของลาวเป็นของเวียดนามเส้นในแขวงเสียงขวางบางบอนถึง30กิโลเมตรเมืองเซโปนแขวงขมวน15กิโลเมตรและยึดเอาคุมบ้านภาคใต้ของลาวหลายแห่งและได้บังคับให้ประชาชนลาวเว้าภาษาเวียดนามที่เป็นการทรมานจิตใจของคนลาวเป็นอย่างยิ่งดังนั้นพวกเราคนลาวทุกคนอยู่ในและนอกประเทศพวกเราที่มาร่วมการประท้วงแห่งนี้การจะตั้งของการพันธมิตรเพื่อประชาธิปไตยการจะตั้งการเมืองสังคมของเราทุกทั่วหน้าที่เป็นปากกระบอกเสียงให้แก่ประชาชนลาวอยู่ในประเทศที่บ่สามารถมีสิทธิ์ได้มาทำการเดินขบวนประท้วงอยู่ในประเทศหรืออยู่นอกประเทศพวกเราจึงทวงมาทางการผู้นำพรรครัฐสปปลาวที่มาร่วมกองประชุมในครั้งนี้และผู้นำสูงสุดของเวียดนามดังนี้1ทวงให้มีการเปลี่ยนแปลงในลาวไปสู่การปกครองแบบประชาธิปไตยในลาวที่มีหลายพรรคการเมืองมีการเลือกตั้งเสรีที่มีความเป็นธรรมภายใต้การดูแลของสหประชาชาติอย่างฮีบรูน2ทวงให้เวียดนามยุติการครอบครองลาวให้ยกเลิกสัญญาพิเศษลาวเวียดนามที่เซ็นกันในวันที่18กรกฎาคม1977อย่างฮีบรูนStop Vietnam communist control of Laos now 3ทวงให้ปฏิบัติหลักการสิทธิมนุษย์ที่สหประชาชาติแบ่งไว้เป็นต้นสิทธิในการปากเว้าการชุมนุมชนการประท้วงทางข่าวสารสิทธิการเมืองการนับถือศาสนาที่ให้ปรากฏผลเป็นจริงทวงให้ยกเลิกดำรับ327ให้ยุติการจับกำปราบปรามผู้ที่เคลื่อนไหวทางสื่อสังคมออนไลน์อย่างฮีบรูนทวงให้ยอมเปิดเผยความจริงการหายทรัพย์สินของท่านสมบัติสมพรและทวงให้มีการปล่อยนักโทษการเมืองและผู้ที่ถูกกล่าวหาการเมืองทุกคนให้มีอิสรภาพอย่างฮีบรูน5ทวงให้ยุติการปราบปรามการโซ่โกงทุกขั้นอำนาจการปกครองในลาวอย่างฮีบรูนและให้มีประสิทธิผลอย่างบ่มีการยกเว้นเป็นต้นให้ยุติการโซ่โกงในระบบการศึกษาพาให้สาวหนุ่มลาวผู้เป็นกระดูกสันหลังของชาติบ่มีคุณภาพของระดับสากลในการพัฒนาประเทศชาติอย่างฮีบรูน6ทวงให้ปราบปรามขบวนการผลิตและจำหน่ายยาเสพติดยาบ้าให้มีประสิทธิผลในลาวอย่างฮีบรูน7ทวงให้ห้ามและปราบปรามขบวนการค้ามนุษย์ในลาวอย่างฮีบรูน8ทวงให้ยุติการทำลายธรรมชาติตัดไม้ทำลายป่าให้ยุติการปล่อยให้มีโรงงานการผลิตพิษให้ต่อธรรมชาติและชีวิตของประชาชนให้ยุติการสร้างเขื่อนอย่างบ่มีขอบเขตและบ่คิดไล่ผลเสียหายของธรรมชาติและผลสะท้อนต่อชีวิตการเป็นอยู่ของประชาชนเราอย่างฮีบรูน
Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for the Laos community. And I think the theme today that we all share, ladies and gentlemen, if we do not stand together, the evil force of dictatorship and communists, they will take over each other, not only their own people land like Hun Sen, murder its own people. They are the criminal and the Laos people, but in Vietnam too. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Po Huy, the president of the Vietnamese community in New South Wales. He will talk about economic, the communist way. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him.
Communist! Out! Out! Out!
Out, out, out!
Communist!
Out, out, out!
Đá ra Cộng sản!
Down, 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 down.
Đá ra Cộng sản!
Down, 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 down.
Ladies and gentlemen! Out! Out! Communist! Down! 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 Communist!
Down, down, down.
Đá ra Cộng sản!
Down, 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 down.
Đá ra Cộng sản!
Down, 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 down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today, now Vietnamese Australian here today to protest the corrupted Vietnamese communist government, whose Prime Minister is in there right now to attending ASEAN Summit. For the last 23 years, Vietnamese communists did nothing for the country, but to benefit themselves through corruption at the expense of the livelihood of our people. Vietnamese communist economy
is the most unstable and risky one. Vietnamese is one of the most worst Asian nations with infamous debt poor repayment and astronomical public debts. Vietnam's financial banking system is one of the most untrusted in the world. Have you ever heard that your money in your bank is stolen by your bank? The answer is the resounding no, no, no. No, no, no. But ladies and gentlemen, it happened in Vietnam. Do Australian government want to trade with those countries with such record? The answer is no, no, no. Vietnamese banks are collapsible because soaring debt in communist state-owned enterprise and dubious lending practices. Investors need to think 100 times if you want to deal with the Vietnamese Communist Party. Transparency International last year reported that Vietnam is perceived to be one of the most corrupted countries in the world. Vietnam stands 107 out of 180, the most corrupted country in the world. Corruption practices are widespread in Vietnam. Australia is a long-standing supporter of development for the poverty reduction in ASEAN via regional and aid program. We urge Australian politicians to recognize Prime Minister Song Phuc is a liar. Liar, liar, liar. We should not provide further aid to fund Vietnamese Communist Party luxurious lifestyle at the expense of poor Vietnamese people. Shame, shame, shame. Shame, shame, shame. Shame, shame, shame. Shame, shame, shame. Do you know that every $10 assigned to public project in Vietnam, $7 going to the Vietnamese Communist Politburo pocket? Do you know that? No. So 70% of the Vietnamese tech aid gets stolen. Do you think Australians get to help poverty people in Vietnam? No. No. In fact, you just continue to make the Vietnamese people poorer. Almost daily, angry citizens demonstrate at government Communist Party offices in Hanoi and Saigon and elsewhere to fight against the local and provincial officials who seize their farmland, pay them a tiny amount of compensation, and then give them the property to investors in exchange for the communist official benefit. Is that moral? Is that moral? No, no, no. The practice of communist land grabbing must be condemned. Condemned, condemned, condemned. Furthermore, victims of land grab are accused of crime against their government. Corrupt officials are stealing not just the people's land, but people's livelihood. Sadly, justice never served in a Vietnamese communist society. Australians are proud of their value of democracy and freedom and their nation of fair go spirit. It would be a shame if Australia shared prosperity with the Vietnamese Communist Party, who famous with corruption, restriction of freedom and expression. Shame, 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 shame. Vietnamese Communist Party play no role in strengthening the joint contribution to regional security and prosperity. We urge Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull not to cooperate with the Vietnamese Communist Party, and Prime Minister Song Phuc must be removed out of summit. Ow, 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 ow. It is immoral to exchange human rights for trade. Trade over human rights with Vietnam is against Aussie value. Vietnamese Australians say no to trade over human rights. There is no place, ladies and gentlemen, for communist Vietnam in the ASEAN summit. Song Phuc must go home now. Song Phuc go home. Song Phuc go home. Song Phuc go home. Song Phuc go home. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Kính thưa quý đồng hương, 43 năm vừa qua, nền kinh tế Việt Nam dưới chế độ độc tài cộng sản luôn ở trong tình trạng đuổi vo ra không ổn định, thâm thủng ngân sách, nợ công chồng chất đang đe dọa sự kinh tế của Việt Nam. Đây là tội ác của cộng sản Việt Nam đã gây ra cho dân tộc chúng ta. Trong Trong nhiều năm qua, Tổ chức Minh bạch Quốc tế luôn xếp Việt Nam vào hạng quốc gia tham nhũng nhất trên thế giới. Cộng sản luôn cài người của chúng vào trong các thành viên gia đình của chúng, giữ những chức vụ chóp bu trong các ngân hàng quốc doanh cũng như các công ty nhà nước, doanh nghiệp quốc doanh do các đảng viên cộng sản đứng đầu, luôn nổi tiếng với cách làm việc rùa bò và luôn thâm thủng hàng triệu đô la, xin lại xin nợ khác, trả cho nợ cũ. Khi phê duyệt các dự án cho vay của ngân hàng quốc doanh luôn ưu tiên cho các doanh nghiệp nhà nước, cho nên các công
trong cộng đồng ở tại Queensland xin được gửi lời chào mừng tất cả quý vị đến từ các tiểu bang New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, Wollongong. Chúng ta có mặt ở đây để chúng ta nói thay cho 1/4 dân số của toàn cầu. Tất cả những cái dân số hiện nay toàn thân hiện đang làm ở bên tàu, bên China, bên Việt Nam, Cambodia, Laos và bây giờ thưa với tất cả quý vị, chúng ta phải nói thay trò. Vì nếu chúng ta không lên nói, không lên tiếng thì có thể nói rằng là bọn cộng sản sẽ cấu kết với nhau và chúng ta sẽ đến đây. Thưa với tất cả quý vị, ôi tàu chúng ta đã dạy nước con nít là nước Úc, là nước New China. They already taught their children in China that Australia will be one day New China. Maybe in China. In 2018, this year marked the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This year, the 70th anniversary, ladies and gentlemen. What is human rights? Human rights are the basic freedom and the protection that belong to every single one of us. Human rights are based on dignity, equality, and mutual respect, regardless of your nationality, your religion, or your belief. No government of any country should be allowed to pick and choose who would be respected. Thưa với tất cả quý vị, nhân quyền dựa lên trên cái sự bình đẳng.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last speaker we got today is a very special person. He is actually, his organization is looking after all the refugees that arrive in Australia.
Thank you very much. I feel very privileged to speak here today. First, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and also acknowledge that our first people of Australia who lived here for 60, 70,000 years are still facing very bad inequality and systematic human rights abuses by our own government. And we always have to draw the link between the Aboriginal population and our refugee populations trying to come here seeking freedom. I don't have to tell you about how repressive your regimes are, whether it's Hun Sen in Cambodia, whether it's Prime Minister Phuc, who's here in Sydney right now for ASEAN from Vietnam, who just did a deal with Malcolm Turnbull 2 days ago over trade and security, and as our previous speaker said, anti-terrorism. How ironic is that? I don't have to tell you about Aung San Suu Kyi and the massive disappointment that people have, and how is she distinguishable now from the military junta who she shares power with. I don't have to tell you about Rodrigo Duterte, the Filipino who likes to present himself as the mini Donald Trump of Southeast Asia as he goes around killing anybody who he suspects, not only the drug dealers but also the homeless and the poor on the streets of Manila. What I want to tell you about today is Australia's dirty relationship with all of these countries. Let's look first at Cambodia. Look at Cambodia. Okay, many of you came as refugees from Cambodia, and many of you see Australia as a free and democratic nation. But do you know that Australia's say. He said it 3 times and it was no, no, no. Do you know that at the moment, Australia's policy, which unfortunately is supported by the Labor Party, is that any refugees who try to come here by boat, just like many of you came from Vietnam 30 years ago, if you tried to do that today to flee the persecution of the Vietnamese government, the Australian Navy would turn you back and hand you over to the Vietnamese authorities. That has happened already to a number of boats of people who are trying to flee, being beaten up by the local authorities, fleeing, government persecution, fleeing religious persecution. This is Australia's response, unfortunately, and they do the same. Do you know also there are tens of thousands of refugees and asylum seekers stranded in Indonesia and Malaysia who are found to be refugees by the United Nations, but Australia refuses to resettle a single one of them. So, I guess I want to make this point. But also, we saw last month that Malcolm Turnbull announced that he wants Australia to become one of the 10 top military arms exporters in the world. We know he's sitting down with dictators this weekend. We know that there's a business summit this weekend. It's not just going to be about food and agriculture and manufactured products. There's also the defence industry. And we know what the trade in arms does. It fuels the conflicts and it creates more refugees. So, Australia might try to parade itself as a free democratic country, but it is dripping with blood. It is dripping with blood in the way that it treats refugees, both who try to come here by boat and the ones that it imprisons on Nauru and Manus Islands. It's dripping in blood with the way it treats our first people in Australia. And it's dripping in blood in terms of its ignoring of human rights from Vietnam, Cambodia to Burma, and turning a blind eye to corruption in Malaysia and Indonesia and all the rest of those countries that are down there right now. So, of course, I understand why many of you consider Australia to be a safe, free home, and we welcome you. But also understand Australia's relationship with those regimes and dictatorships that you fled. Join us here in Australia to fight for human rights here as well as in your home country. Because at the moment, Australia is setting a very, very bad example for the regimes and governments of Southeast Asia. They say if Australia can treat people like that, then we can as well. And we've got to put a stop to it right here, right now. Many of you got a flyer from us earlier. Next Sunday, 2 o'clock at Belmore Park. Next to Central Station, we're going to rally to welcome refugees and fight for human rights. Thank you very much. Come and see me if you need those things.
Thank you very much, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, it will come at the conclusion of today. I don't know how I can express enough to say how proud I am as an Australian, really, and how proud I am of all of you as my fellow Australians. Because actually, today we join together, united on one thing, that is we want to reflect Australian value, the value that actually saved us, nurture us and our children, and we enjoyed it today. That values, one Australia was fighting with our whole country against communists, against dictatorship. You remember that very well. And Australia today, unfortunately, our government have failed us by upholding the Australian value that we upholding. That is against human rights abuser and uphold human rights for everyone. And that is why today I'm so proud that we are here at truly Australians. Because that is what all Australians want us to do. That is to speak up for human rights. Speak up as an Australian who cares for everyone who got their human rights abused. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite back to the stage Mr. Bon Nguyen and Mr. Hong Lim. The two of them have actually sit down and worked and organize this united front today. And they worked countless hours, and this is the first time ever that we got 4. Actually, the Filipino would join us in the beginning, but for some unknown reason, I hope Duterte got nothing to do with this. They withdrew. So finally, may you put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Australians. Big round of applause for the organizer of today's rally, Mr. Bon Nguyen and Mr. Hong Lim here.
Can I first please invite all of the community leaders up onto the stage, please? All of the community leaders, including the Laos and the Cambodians and the Vietnamese leaders from other states. And first, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is the first step. We will work into the future, foreseeing the future, ladies and gentlemen. Can I thank you, all the leaders of the communities, for mobilizing your community members from the state of New South Wales, from the Victorian chapter, from the South Australia, from Brisbane, from Wollongong, from ASEAN. Everyone, can I specifically thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Paul Hui, the Vietnamese president, have been working together for his organizing skills and logistics skills. And I thank all the volunteers that have put the stage together, including the flag and the signage, the cost of the signage. Thank you so much for all of that, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Can I also thank you all the MCs, with the Phong Nguyen, with the Loan, and I say Hing Tan, and also Hong Lee as well. And I also thank our uniform members, the policemen, had done a fantastic job, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not the only thing. I think, thank you for the media, the Australian media, for projecting the true story of what is happening in other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the real reality. I think us, your fellow Australians, it is my duty, our duty, to share what is happening in other countries, to protect the values that we Australians share. If we don't protect that one day, that will be compromised. We have the freedom that we enjoy now, as our refugee speakers spoke earlier. We have that freedom. But if we do not protect that, one day that will come to Australia, and then we will suffer, gentlemen. And it is my duty, our duty, to share that. But it is your duty to forecast that for the rest of our fellow Australians. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I invite Mr. Hing Tan, who is from to have a few words. Maybe you are the president of the Laos. Can you have a few words? Hello, to conclude this ceremony, this is from Lao community. We are here all together with the Free Vietnamese in China, Cambodian, and Vietnam. We are happy to come here together to work to fight for the common cause. And we hope that we can share again in the future. We have to work together to achieve our common goal. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you once again. Thank you everything for everybody. Thank you.
No, sorry. We have a program to run, and we have to respect our program, sir. Thank you for being here.
So once again, thank you very much, Bon, and all the community leaders from the Vietnamese community leaders who have put up a fantastic event today, and all the community leaders from the Laos, from the Philippines, from the Rohingya, and from the Union, especially from my compatriot, the Cambodian community. We have done a fantastic job by showing our voice here on behalf of the Cambodian who their voice have been taken away. បាទដូច្នេះនៅក្នុងពេលនេះគឺខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណដល់បងប្អូនខ្មែរយើងទាំងអស់ដែលបានអញ្ជើញមកចូលរួមហើយសូមអរគុណដល់សហគមន៍បងប្អូនវៀតណាមនិងជនជាតិខាងហ្វីលីពីនខាងឡាវ Rohingya ដែលបានអញ្ជើញមកចូលរួម I think this is just the beginning, like Phong just said. It's the beginning of our friendship, the beginning of our unity, most importantly, the beginning of our solidarity for our country into the future. I hope there's going to be something bigger, unite for our community to fight for freedom for our country into the future. So once again, thank you Phong, thank you Bonawin, and thank you everyone for organizing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My final words before we finish. Ladies and gentlemen, all of the statements of demands and requests of today of all the leaders shall be compiled and sent it to the government of Australia and CC to all the other leaders in the so-called ASEAN country today. Ladies and gentlemen, so all of their requests and statements shall be compiled and sent forward. Ladies and gentlemen, like we have said before, this is the beginning, and this is the beautiful beginning, but it's very important beginning. And we together, we hope we have shown the government of Australia the strength of their electors, of their voters. Remember, each of us got a vote, and the upcoming federal election, remember, if we are united, we can speak with one voice, we can vote, and we will show if our elected officials do not respect the will of the people, they will pay. But I'm not quite sure, but I'm quite sure of one thing, that if we united, we sit together, small community support, the bigger community support, the smaller community, because we share the same aims and the same values for our people, we will make a difference at the next election. So I call all of you to exercise your democratic rights. Demand the upcoming government of Australia, whoever, whatever color, show us their policy about human rights and trade, ladies and gentlemen. That show us before we vote. So that is my parting remark, and I believe that together, this is today's beginning. We will work continuously. Today is not just a flash in the pants or just something to feel good. No, today is beginning. So with that, I thank you and wishing you a safe trip home, particularly those who live.
And before you go home, ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to help with one thing? Please return this plate as we found it. Please help us pick up any rubbish that you drop on the ground and put them all in the bins. Let's do it now.
That's our tradition. Pick up any rubbish that you see around you, put it in the bin to leave this place pristine, absolutely clean like it was before. This is something, our tradition.